Well, now, as the world looks on, America's politicians are starting their debate on whether or not it should lead missile strikes against Syria.
Visit Capitol Hill tomorrow as he faces a major battle to win backing for a strike on Syria. Obama plans to meet with Democrats at the Senate to win over skeptics. 50 of 100 senators remain undecided. 17 are currently opposing military action. 10 are leaning towards no, and just 23 will support a strike. But the real struggle will be in the House of Representatives, where the president has a load of work to do against strong opposition. From a total of 435 voting members, there are 114 representatives opposing military action. A further 116 are leaning towards no. If those numbers remain the same, then Obama will lose the vote. So far, members remain reluctant to come out in support of intervention, with just 25 backing an attack on Syria. The president is now planning a public relations blitz to change those who are still undecided. 175 of them, largely made up of members of his own party.
In the last few minutes, the Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has announced that the first votes on Syria will take place in the Senate on Wednesday. Senator Reid made an appeal to his colleagues to vote for military action. Well, now we're joined by the Democrat strategist and radio show host Richard Fowler and the Republican pollster Kristen Soltis. And for once, your party affiliations or interests are almost completely irrelevant, because this transcends party, does it not?
Very much so. The polls are showing that both Republicans and Democrats have sort of turned against military action in Syria in terms of public opinion. The polls have shown a pretty significant decrease, even over just the last week, in the percentage of Americans of both parties who support military action in Syria. But in fact, it's independents that, even more so than Democrats and Republicans, have in the polls shown that they oppose military action.
Well, Richard Fowler, this is difficult for the president, isn't it? At the very moment at which he ups his pitch, down go the numbers.
Oh, exactly. I think this president's in a tough position. I think if you ask anybody at the White House today, they'll tell you they're going to have the next couple of days is going to be very tough for them. What the president has to say tomorrow night is he has to reassure the American people.
And we should point out that he's going live from the Oval Office.
Yes.
I think he doesn't do often.
You never. Though the thing is, you never use the Oval Office unless you have to. It is the bully pulpit. It's the creme de la creme when it comes to media positions to speak. And I think what the president has to do tomorrow night is reassure the American people that this is less about our national interest and more so about making sure that we are the policemen of the world. We are the country that stands up for the voiceless and the innocent and those that have chemical gas used against them.
Well, you have fascinating figures on what's actually happened to the public since, say, Christmas.
Around Christmas, you had an ABC Washington Post poll that showed 63% of Americans supported a hypothetical situation in which Assad uses chemical weapons against the Syrian people. Fast forward to just last week, and the number was down to 36% who supported it. The other challenge is that President Obama's foreign policy job approval has fallen quite a bit in the last year. It used to be his strong suit. His foreign policy job approval was often higher than his overall job approval. And now it's Pew Research Center just released numbers about an hour ago saying that only 33% of Americans say they approve of the job President Obama is doing in terms of foreign policy. So the stakes are very high for him going into the Oval Office and giving this address, because he needs to be able to get his own numbers up in addition to the numbers of those voting to authorize action against Syria.
Well, let's try and drill down into those figures, because what is it that's changed Americans' minds? Is it, the gas has now been used, so the president says. So what's changed?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that have changed the American people's minds. I think one thing that has changed the American people's minds is that every decision that we make here in this country about going to war and about putting our men and women in harm's way is sort of shadowed and clouded by the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. And while this president has been remarkable...
Yeah, but that was the case at Christmas. Why would it be...
Well, I think as they taper on is because we've almost graduated into a society where we are not in war. And we've been in war for the past 10 years, and he's downgraded our war in Afghanistan, downgraded our war in Iraq, and now for us to send the American people to war once again is going to be a hard sell for the president.
And what else do you find? Is that the only reason?
I think there are some fiscal issues in play here as well. Bear in mind, many Americans think about the national debt and our deficit spending as a very important issue. In fact, the economy and deficit spending are consistently considered more important issues by the American people than foreign affairs. So the idea of actually sending blood and treasure overseas into conflict, that's a very high bar you have to cross in terms of what does this mean for America if you want to get the American people on board.
I must confess, when I read in the Washington Post this morning that the combined wars had cost $2 trillion, that's a figure these people know, isn't it?
Oh, that is a figure these people know, and I think one thing that you hear from those that are on the far left of his party and progressives in this country is we need to spend that money rebuilding America. It's not necessarily about austerity or cutting our way to the bottom or cutting our way to growth, but we need to use that money to invest in America's roads, America's education, America's young people. And so that's what you hear on the progressive side, and that is where the president has a big problem. He has a big problem amongst progressive Democrats, and he also has a problem amongst moderate Republicans. This whole week is going to be a group of odd bedfellows sort of in the bed. For us politicals, this is what we live for, but it's definitely an interesting thing as you see these vote counts come down and to see what this president does next and how they calculate and what he's going to say tomorrow.
But it would be such fun if it weren't such a desperately, diabolically dangerous issue of our moment. This could be a history-changing moment, whatever happens.
That's a real shame. It seems as though there's really no good option when you look at this conflict. Going in could risk empowering elements within Syria that are perhaps even more dangerous to the U.S. than Assad. However, doing nothing risks looking like we support the use of chemical weapons. And so there's really no good option at this point.
Well, Kristen Soltis, Richard Fowler, thank you both very warmly for coming in.